Let's get it going.
Of California. Great to see you, sir.
Good to see you, sir.
Good morning.
So you tweeted yesterday in response to a number of centrist Democrats caving to the Republicans and voting for the shutdown deal. You tweeted this: Senator Schumer is no longer effective and should be replaced. If you can't lead the fight to stop healthcare premiums from skyrocketing for Americans, what will you fight for? What led you to that conclusion, Congressman?
Just a moral disgust. I mean, I know personally, as I'm sure you do, people whose premiums are going to go up $1,000, $2,000 a month. Millions of Americans are literally going to get kicked off healthcare, and we can't fight to make sure that their premiums don't go up after the Tuesday wins. It's just political malpractice. Here you have Donald Trump on the ropes, scrambling, trying to make some deal. And we basically say, well, we don't care if the premiums go up. Like, what do we stand for? So he needs to be replaced and step down. More Democrats need to be calling for that. The only reason they aren't calling for it, let me be blunt, is because you offend a lot of donors. There are a lot of billionaires. There are a lot of donors that contribute to the DSCC, that contribute to Chuck Schumer. But, you know, we've got to make a choice of this party. Are we going to be beholden to the donors that have gotten us 2 terms of Donald Trump, or are we going to listen to people?
Sir, the cope from the Schumer crowd is, well, he voted no. What is he supposed to do? He can't keep his caucus.
I can't believe that they thought that that would be valid. I actually cannot believe that they thought, like, Chuck Schumer thinks you are a fucking idiot, by the way. I cannot stress this enough. Chuck Schumer thinks you are a fucking moron. He has to, because otherwise, why else? Why else would he have done this little scheme where, you know, he just goes, well, I voted no for it. It's like, but you're the leader of the party. You're the minority leader in the Senate. Who would ever believe this? Like, who would ever go, oh, well, he actually did vote no for it. So what's the alternative then? That you are bad at your job to such a ginormous degree? You're so bad at your job that you couldn't whip the votes? I mean, your whip, by the way, his whip in the Senate is Dick Durbin. Dick Durbin voted to open the government without any concessions from the Republicans, okay? Like, it is a ridiculous statement. Schumer is the minority leader. He's either not being honest about whipping the votes and using retiring senators to take the fall so he's not primaried, or he's so weak that he can't keep his caucus together. And I need you to understand, the very fact that Jon Ossoff initially was a yes on the continued resolution, only to turn into a no on the continued resolution, especially because he has a primary coming up, means that Chuck Schumer whipped the votes in the opposite direction. The very fact that the gang of 8 are either John Fetterman, who is, you know, John fucking Fetterman anyway, or don't have any, or either retiring like Dick Durbin, or don't have any primaries coming up until 2028 or 2030, implies that the Democratic Party knew exactly how unpopular this would look like if they were to concede in the aftermath of an incredible blue wave election that took place, especially at a time when the Trump administration is experiencing unprecedented unpopularity, that the Democratic Party's base of support would punish them. And that's the reason why they went after and got the regular rotating villain structure in the party that exists to do this thing that understandably has been met with a lot of response. When we say it's controlled opposition, this is what we fucking mean.
Fine. What's your response to that?
Come on, Schumer's been in politics for 50 years. I mean, even he couldn't say that with a straight face. He controls the caucus. He determines when a deal can be cut. He obviously gave them the green light. I don't think he would even deny that. He didn't call up Dick Durbin, his number 2, and say, hey, Dick, maybe you shouldn't be voting this way. So this is the typical game. It actually adds to the cynicism. I mean, if he had just voted for it, at least he could have maybe he has a principled argument. But this is the worst of both worlds. It's like, look, I'm going to try to play a political game, but at the end of the day, the premiums are still going to go up.
So, Congressman, let me play devil's advocate here. So what the centrists say is basically like, look, the Republicans drew a hard line. They were not bending. Trump isn't even negotiating with us. They say they will not give us anything other than this. And meanwhile, you've got 40+ million people who are going hungry without food stamps. You've got all these federal government workers who are out of work, not getting paychecks. You've got increasing chaos at the airlines. I know you yourself have suffered from some of the air travel nightmares. We're heading into Thanksgiving here. Like, we're trying to be the adults in the room. What do you say to that?
Well, look, obviously people are suffering. In my district, they're suffering in terms of the SNAP benefits being cut. There's no doubt that on the airlines, I mean, I was just talking yesterday, I was in the airport 6 hours. There are a lot of lines, cuts, air traffic controllers aren't being paid, congressional staff aren't being paid, federal workers aren't being paid. I get all of that. And what we should be talking about is reopening the House of Representatives so we can vote to extend SNAP benefits, pay troops. I think we had a lot of leverage to continue to put the pressure on to do that. But you had Donald Trump literally saying we lost the election because of this. We need to get some.
I cannot believe it. I know the Democrats are bad. I talk about that every day. And even then, even when I heard whispers of this happening, and I told you guys about it, when I was in DC, I was like, I am hearing some stuff. I'm hearing some stuff that there is a caving that is going to take place. And you guys couldn't believe it. And I couldn't believe it either. I was like, because it made no sense, right? When I was talking about this, I was like, it just makes no fucking sense that they would do this, right? It literally didn't make any sense. And I think partially it was because they wanted to preserve the filibuster. I swear to fucking God. I think it was literally because they were scared that they would take the filibuster away. And honestly, it's either that, because like nothing makes logical sense. What they are doing here does not make logical sense. Do you understand? It doesn't make any logical sense. It defies logic. It defies all logic from like gamesmanship. It defies all logic for why a party would operate this way. It like, it's unbelievable. It is even worse than the expectations that I have of the Democrats, which is lower than dirt. I assume it was the airliners potentially, but like, once again, why didn't they go to Trump? The only logical movement here is that they did not want the filibuster to get nuked, and they were just like, oh, if Trump is serious, like he has the capacity to whip the votes in his party to nuke the filibuster and go with the nuclear option, and then we actually have to do legislation which will harm our, which will harm our corporate donors' interests. Because like, remember, no filibuster in the Senate means much easier passage of bills. A Democrat president and a majority Senate and a majority Democrat Senate and a majority Democrat House of Representatives could quite literally get together a comprehensive healthcare bill like Medicare for All and pass it. It's a major hurdle. The filibuster is a major hurdle. It's not in the Constitution. It is just a procedural hurdle that exists that has evolved throughout the years to basically turn into this thing where senators don't even have to stand up and deliver speeches any longer. It's just a mere ever-present threat of a filibuster means that every single massively consequential bill has to pass with supermajorities. And I know that the Republicans don't want the filibuster to go away because they use it against the Democrats. Democrats don't want the filibuster to go away because they don't want to legislate. Do you understand? Here's the Fox News host also echoing this statement, which, take it with a grain of salt, obviously. But there was a very, very, very scary lesson that the Democrats basically reinforced here. And that lesson is Republicans can literally get away with murder because the Republicans said, we are not funding ACA extended credits. Okay, we're not doing it. The insurance companies said, bet if you don't do it, we're going to triple the premiums. We're going to fucking triple the premiums. And the Democrats were like, that's insane. 24 million Americans are going to lose access to healthcare because they can't pay the triple the amount in their premiums. We have to continue the ACA subsidies. And also we need to get assurances that Trump can't just like veto expenditures by executive mandate, by fiat, right? Like, because right now the way it works is Donald Trump can functionally destroy whatever kind of congressional legislative agenda you might have. Donald Trump can turn around and say, nope, not happening. Oh, you allocated funds? It doesn't matter. You're cooked. So that's also another problem for even the Republicans in Congress. But they can't say anything about it because it's Donald Trump. So that was another part of this battle. It was supposed to be continuation of ACA subsidies so that 24 million people don't get possibly kicked off of their healthcare coverage. And also additional clearances that, like, Donald Trump cannot, by executive mandate, change previously allocated expenditures that Congress actually allotted. Congress actually budgeted out. They didn't get either of those things. The reason why I say this is a terrible lesson is because not only did the Republicans refuse to cave on this, they also fucking turned around and throughout this entire shutdown process for 40 days, didn't even try to message. At first they said, oh, they're going to give $1 trillion to Guatemalans. They're going to give $1 trillion to undocumented migrants. That was bullshit, right? It didn't even stick. And then what did they do? They turned around and said, okay, we'll actually lean into the shutdown and we'll actually increase the pain. And because they were doing that so openly, so flagrantly, that they started actually suffering consequences from it. One of the greatest examples is the blue wave that you saw, right? Every single district flipped back to Democrats in Virginia and even in places like Georgia. Like, Democrats actually had a incredible electoral performance. And right at the precipice of Donald Trump feeling that pain, they fucking caved. The Democrats caved, teaching the Republicans a lesson that they don't ever have to concede to the Democrats in any point of leverage, because they can just keep punishing the public and the Democrats will get fearful and they will turn around and they will concede for no reason whatsoever. I have never seen an instance where you have the leverage, you have the upper hand, you're actually working for something that unites the base, right? You're showing that you're a fighter, you're using whatever leverage exists, and you're actually putting healthcare as the primary reason for why you're doing this. It's a winning argument. It's win, 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 win all around. So much so that even someone like myself, who is heavily critical of the Democratic Party all the fucking time, shut the fuck up and said, Hakeem Jeffries is my GOAT, Chuck Schumer is my GOAT, they're doing the right thing. Remember, until they stopped doing the right thing. And I guess if there is any sort of silver lining that I can see from this situation, it's that more and more Americans on the liberal side, on the Democratic Party side, who are paying close attention to what's going on, are probably going to lean into our side a little bit further. They are, I think they're on the enough is enough. We're done with this bullshit mentality at this point. Liberals do not have killer instinct as part of being a lib. No. It's not that. It's not that. The killer instinct and shit like that, especially with like liberal voters, people who self-ID as liberals. But yeah, you have people like Ro Khanna who are leaning into this, obviously. Sometimes the grand scheme is less defined than we think, and the greater cause isn't being paid attention to. No, I don't think it's like, these guys are not thinking in centuries or anything. Yeah, if that's what you think is going on. Centrists care about Republican feelings more than their constituents. They think giving up the advantage will prolong their career because they've done this shit for 40 years, but Republicans aren't playing by neoliberal rules anymore. I can't in good conscience think that they are that out of touch. I cannot in good conscience believe that the Democrats literally think that they're playing by the old rules or something, especially because they were already losing by the old rules over and over and over again. You cannot be that out of touch, dude. It is virtually impossible. Also, yeah, here's Mike Johnson. Like, the Republicans are not playing ball at all. Can you imagine? So what? Without the leverage, you just burned the only leverage that you had. Now you burned the only leverage that you had, and the Republicans are not going to fucking advance any bills. Donald Trump is not going to sign any bills. And all you got was a fucking IOU and an assurance that was never going to come out. And of course, the new line of attack is the Republicans basically saying the Dems held out for nothing. They got nothing in the end here. They starved people for political gain, and they're not even wrong. Jesus Christ, they suck. Is exactly what I said. Exactly what I said before the shutdown actually ended. If you recall, when they were on the verge of actually conceding, I said, you will look like you did this all for naught. And unfortunately, it's kind of true. I do think these 8 Democrats think they're playing by the old rules. They're scared of the Trump overturning the filibuster and think that they can open the government. The ball will be in Trump's court and he'll be unable to fix it. No, I think that's happening no matter what. I cannot believe that these motherfuckers could actually be that out of touch and that fucking stupid. That is, I mean, you shouldn't be able to hold office, let alone ever be hired for the rest of your life if you are that fucking stupid. Yeah, assholes like Scott Jennings are doing I told you so's. Yeah, of course they are. I told you that they were going to do that. Didn't I? I said it. If the Republicans are willing to nuke the filibuster in order to pass their priorities, then it only exists in order to block Democrat priorities. In other words, these centrist Democrats voted to overturn this filibuster to give Republicans more power if Democrats ever win. And Karen Tumulty, Washington Post chief political correspondent, also has the same assessment, says this was all about the filibuster. A lot of people, I think, are seeing it. A lot of people are seeing the same shit that we're seeing. This is what Premier Spike, for a man with cancer who's a taxi driver in Arizona, met his son. This is Ambetter, operated by private health insurer Centene. This is why we need to extend to ACA credits and fight for Medicare for all. I don't understand how fucking incompetent these guys can get. It is mind-boggling to me. I've long opposed the filibuster, and lots of people will say, well, how would you feel if the R's had united government and no filibuster? And my answer is, fine. It would be better to have Congress doing stuff and actually passing laws than a wannabe dictator issuing decrees. This is my assessment as well. This is also my assessment. Remember, last week I was talking about this when there was some chatter about nuking the filibuster, and I said this is not a bad thing. Nuking the filibuster is a good thing because the filibuster is a significant hurdle for any kind of initiative that you build out. It's much easier to break things. It's much more difficult to build things. And if you are the left party in this country, if you are the Democratic Party in this country, you are constantly trying to expand the pre-existing social safety nets, right? At least in theory. The Democrats don't do that, but in theory, that is what the left party is supposed to do. And therefore, you need 60 fucking votes. You need you can't do it by simple majority. To break things is much simpler. And not only is it much simpler to break things, and they can already do the simple majority tax cuts, just like Trump did and Trump won, and just like Trump did and Trump too. Trump also has taken it beyond that, where anything that he wants to do right now, he just does by executive mandate. So it's not like he isn't accomplishing his agenda. So nuking the filibuster in this regard would have unironically helped the Democrats. Partially, it would have helped the Democrats because then they could have a potential majority, because who knows how crazy things get by the midterms, right? They could potentially have a majority in both the House and Senate, let's say. And then it would all be up to Donald Trump's vetoing power. Like they could just constantly start pumping bills out. And it's such an obvious point that even Ezra fucking Klein is in agreement with us, chat. Think about that. I worry that the Democrats have just taught Trump that they will fold under pressure. That's the kind of lesson he remembers. Obviously, it's the lightest fucking version of how devastating this is. In reality, it is the lightest criticism that you can apply. But it's even Ezra Klein is on our side. Like, think about that. The only person who seemingly doesn't get it is fucking near-attended. Schumer voted no. How about some tweets on the yes votes? What do you mean Schumer voted no? How about some tweets on the fucking yes votes? What are you saying? Again, if that's your counter, you think every single voter is a moron. And even stupid people know when they're getting I'm sorry, I do not believe Americans are that stupid. I don't. It's crazy. Any American that is actually paying attention to what's going on here is going to go, why the did you not keep fighting? What are we doing? How could you just like give up without any concessions? Do you not care about the 24 million people who are going to have their healthcare coverage lapse? Do you not care about that at all? Because that's what you're doing. You're admitting that you don't give a shit about that. You didn't want to fight hard enough. And also you're doing it in the worst way possible. You're doing it in the worst fucking way possible, where you're basically showing everybody that you're always going to concede. You're always going to concede. Anyway, even MSNBC is shitting on the Democrats. Let's take a look.
You have left or right or more progressive on ACA subsidies. Almost 80% of Americans want the subsidies to continue. That's not left or right. That's right and wrong. So almost 60% of Republicans want the ACA subsidies to continue. Chuck Schumer should have negotiated a better deal. He should have been in the public more. He's not a bad guy, any stretch. He's just not the right person at the right time. We're going through a different time. You're dealing with a GOP that's an anti-democratic movement. They don't care what the American people think on an issue like this. So
CNN right now doing a hit piece on Abdul, thrashing him for tweeting defund the police. This shit is so tiring. It doesn't matter. I don't think that matters. Guys, think about it. Donald Trump and the Republican Party wanted to rob 24 million Americans of their healthcare coverage by refusing to fund the additional subsidies for ACA. And in an effort to get away with it, they shut the government down, and then they threatened by force to starve 42 million Americans. If you think that Dr. Abdul El-Sayed saying defund the police in like 2020 at peak woke is going to be a blemish on their on their track record when they're actively championing Medicare for all, in the eyes of the broader liberal electorate, you are out of your fucking mind. Liberals voted for Jay Jones, Attorney General Jay Jones in Virginia. Okay, Virginia has less of a blue swing than Michigan does, especially when you have left flank candidates in places like Michigan. Liberals do not give a I'm telling you right now, liberals will, and most people at this stage will vote for whoever the fuck they can. And I think in primary situations, I suspect the more stuff like this happens, the more they will go, I will primary anybody and I will put anyone on the fucking board. I will literally do everything in my power to vote for the most radical candidate at this point. It matters because he's got a center-left competitor that wonks and Y-moms like. He won't make it out the primary. Wrong. Bernie Sanders is seen by many liberals as the North Star in the party right now. You're wrong. I think when the Bernie wing says that's a fighter, that's gonna go out the bat for you, people listen. Haley Stevens is cooked, right? Stevens, I keep forgetting. There's another person, Mick Morrow, that is like a somewhat more progressive candidate. But Dr. Abdul El Sayed will, I think, cook. Yeah. Bernie was asked if he has confidence in Schumer. He said he's backing anti-establishment candidates. Do you still have confidence in Schumer as the leader of the Senate? Schumer and I have very fundamental disagreements about where the Democratic Party should be, and I'm strongly supporting candidates for the Senate who are not a part of the Democratic establishment, who believe in Medicare for all, who are prepared to take on the big money interests and fight for the working people. I have a very different vision for where the Democratic Party should go. If Schumer steps down, who is going to take his place? The truth is, progressives in the Senate are right now. I think there are about 8 or 9 of us. We are pretty much of a minority. Things are changing. As I said, the Democratic Party is very weak. And Democratic Party's weakness creates a political opportunity for it to become a strong party in general. However, because the Democratic Party is so goddamn weak at this moment, unfortunately, it creates these unique moments of pain, these unique moments of struggle, these unnecessary moments of hardship. Here is, what was I going to show you? Oh, speaking of the weakness, the institutional rot, here is Hakeem Jeffries.
Was the shutdown worth it?
We have waged a battle on behalf of the American people. First of all, Donald Trump and Republicans are the ones who shut the government down. They have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And the American people know it. And that's been the case for 7 consecutive weeks.
But, at the end of the day, you didn't get what you want. So was it worth waging this fight?
At the end of the day, the fight lives on.
Yeah, this is a punishing media environment for any fucking Democrat. I don't know what he could even say in this situation. I don't know what he's supposed to say because they fucking lost. And as much as I despise Hakeem Jeffries, they didn't lose because of him. I don't trust Hakeem Jeffries. I despise Hakeem Jeffries. He was not even fucking responsible for this loss. It was Chuck goddamn Schumer. Now, would Hakeem Jeffries operate in a similar way if push came to shove? Absolutely. I think Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer have the exact same issues. They are the old guard. Hakeem Jeffries is a younger face, but still the fucking old guard of the party. They represent the old guard's interests. They represent establishment Democrat policies, and establishment Democrat parties policies are that they are going to always concede to the Republicans. They're not going to fight. They're not going to fight hard. Hakeem Jeffries personally also doesn't have the prowess or the persuasive capabilities. Yeah. He also is defending Chuck Schumer. Here it is. Asked if he thinks Schumer is effective and should keep his job, Hakeem Jeffries replied yes and yes.
Yes and yes.
I'm so tired of this, man. I just fucking hate it. And in the absence of no alternatives, it's like, what are you supposed to do, man? Like, what can we do? We have nothing. We don't have any solidarity. We have very little labor union power in terms of like expressing labor union militancy, for example. Like, we don't have that. Like, unfortunately, Democrats are the only fucking game in town in the interim. They are the only game in town in the short term. There's no other viable alternative for pushing back against the forces that the Republicans are advancing, the fascism that they are building. I don't know what to say. Having Schumer's allies anonymously brief Axios wasn't malicious, just too weak to stop it, is the same Biden is angry leak strategy. It's PR for dummies. We're supposed to applaud that he heroically delayed the dissenters until after the election. I see Jeffries is joining Schumer on the we think you're all idiots train. Yeah, anyone that says that Chuck Schumer has actually whip the votes brilliantly is lying to you. And you should understand that they think you're stupid. They think you will fall for this. And it's really interesting because by and large, most voters don't pay attention to this stuff. Most Americans don't pay attention to this stuff. But the people that do pay attention to this shit are much smarter than this. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries instructed members to keep focus on healthcare and not on a few individuals in the Senate, according to 3 lawmakers who were in on the call. And it's also like very obvious. Yeah, Schumer privately fought to extend government shutdown. Sure, and Biden was outclassing all of his younger aides with his razor sharp mind in private. Like, we've seen this song and dance. These kinds of like fake leaks to the media is not effective. It's not going to work. Dick Durbin thanked Thune for the offer.
Leader Thune has
God.
also promised the Democrats an opportunity before mid-December to present a Democratic bill on the floor with proposals to change the law and protect American families from dramatic health care premium increases. It is my fervent hope that this ends up being a bipartisan effort. It would be such an achievement of the Senate to finally return to that status. I've served in this.
Yeah, I love that it's like their argument is, nah, we're just bad. Like, incompetence, not malice. Masterful defense, sir, is right. Noah's correct. Their defense against, like, how could you have fucking done the spectacularly bad thing is to just turn around and be like, oh, you don't understand. We're just bad at our fucking job, man. We are just dog shit at our job. That's the problem, sir. I'll have you know, I'm not evil. I'm just horrible at my fucking job. Great. Love to hear that. Love to hear that from this insanely incompetent party at a time when there is like exceptional pain, at a time when there's exceptional pain being unleashed by the right-wing forces in this country, and people are desperate for a crumb of defense, a crumb of community defense, a crumb of pushback, especially when they actually fucking had it. It blows my mind. They had it. It was working. I'm sorry. This is everything that I fucking complain about in real time, happening, unfolding in ways that even liberals can see. It blows my mind. Like, it genuinely feels like, look, Democrats are the controlled opposition party is something that we say all the fucking time because exactly this kind of behavior, right? It's like, it feels like they just straight up got together and said, things are getting too good for us. People are going to get the wrong idea that we have to like actually fight back against Trump. And we don't want to fucking do that. For the first 9 months, they have experienced unprecedented, historic levels of disapproval. But the Trump administration is so bad that people finally are like, okay, well, at least like the not Trump vote seems a lot better for us now than ever before. Holy shit, even though you're not doing anything. And these guys were like, no, you misunderstood. We are still fucking awful. Make no mistake. We will fuck you. Make no mistake. We want to make sure that you understand Republicans are actually the only game in town, I promise.
Said for 29 years, and I've never seen that kind of offer from a Senate majority.
Do you think this will ultimately hurt the Republican Party worse down the line for refusing to negotiate? Everything that the Republican Party does hurts the Republicans because the Republican agenda hurts the voters on both sides. The point here is not just to make the Republicans erode American democracy, with Gestapo operations happening in blue cities, and refusing to fund SNAP, things of that nature. The point is to actually put up a strong response against that so your voters have confidence that you actually have their fucking back. And they did that. They did that to a certain degree. They did that in the shutdown operation. They pushed back and the voters rewarded them. And then they turned around and were like, whoa. I don't want you to get too confident here, okay? We're still fucking up the bag. We will let Trump molest the money. We will let Trump molest you in general. We don't care.
During the historic roll call last night, I walked across the aisle and met with Senator John Thune, the Republican leader. I told him that I was counting on him to keep his word on this agreement. He assured me he would.
Oh, hell yeah.
The fate of this effort depends on both the Senate and the House of Representatives. After a 7-week absence, the Speaker Johnson needs to call his members back and join us in the hard work that lies ahead. Many of my friends are unhappy. They think we should have kept our government closed indefinitely to protest the policies of the Trump administration.
That's not like, remember, Dick Durbin is the second in command in the Senate Democratic Party. Dick Durbin is the second in command. He is the whip. Okay, he's the minority whip. And he's over here being like, many of our colleagues are upset that we did the right thing. It's like, dude, your job is to literally, your job under normal circumstances is supposed to be to tell everyone that would say something like that to shut the f up. That is your job, brother. And you're the one saying it? Are you fucking kidding me? Of course he's saying it because he's retiring. So he doesn't give a shit. So you can't even do anything to him. He's retiring, and his children and his grandchildren are always going to get cushy fucking jobs because of all the corporate interests that he actually advanced while he was in this key position of power, including but not limited to this last moment.
The opinions of this administration, but cannot accept a strategy which wages political battle at the expense of my neighbor's paycheck or the food for his children. Mr. President.
Yeah, Republicans also predicted that they would fucking cave. They were relying on it. A group of Senate Democrats give in and agree to deal with the Republicans that would reopen the government without a guarantee that ACA subsidies would be extended. Republicans had predicted that Democrats would cave on the government shutdown as soon as the election was over because they were only keeping the standoff going to motivate their base. Republicans know. Republicans fucking know that their enemies do not care about the population. Okay? Republicans don't care about it either. But at least Republicans are honest about their fucking lack of interest in helping the working class, at least in their agenda. Okay? Democrats lie and act as though they do care about the working class, only to fucking sell them out in this moment of maximum leverage for no fucking reason. Here's Mike Johnson in the House saying it's not happening.
We'd like to bring back to the table because that will actually solve the problem and not just subsidize insurance companies.
So you're not committing to bringing up a bill.
I also hate when Republicans use my arguments about the ACA. Like when they also say that about unimaginable cost of like higher education in this country, where they'll be like, oh, it's because like loans are subsidizing these institutions. It's like, yeah, that's my job. That's my argument. You can't use that. The fuck? Because he's not wrong. When the Republicans say, why are we doing these Band-Aid solutions? We're just giving subsidies to private insurance companies. They're not wrong. Except the alternative to that is Medicare for all. The alternative to that is socialized medicine, cutting out the insurance companies in its entirety, unless it's something like super, it's just like a super rare thing that you want to get, like an elective or something. It blows my mind that these guys also had the audacity to make the correct argument against the ACA subsidies while simultaneously just continuing to advance deregulation in that front.
That deals with the Obamacare subsidies before they expire.
I'm not committing to it or not committing to it. What I'm saying is that we do a deliberative process. That's the way this always works, and we have to have time to do that, and we will in a bipartisan fashion.
If something passes the Senate,
we'd like...
Yeah, and also here, Senate votes 53-47 to shoot down the Baldwin Amendment to extend ACA funds for 1 year, a party line vote with every Republican rejecting it. An important vote in this series is Tammy Baldwin's proposal to extend ACA expiring funds for 1 year is structured as a motion to table, i.e. scrap it from the amendment tree, but it'll show the appetite or lack thereof in the Senate to address this issue. What an utter humiliation, dude. News, House Democratic leadership is officially whipping no on the bill to reopen the government. The average monthly SNAP benefits is $177 a person. The average ACA benefit is up to $550 a person per month. People want us to hold the line for a reason. This is not a matter of appealing to a base. It's about people's lives. Working people want leaders whose word means something. Yeah, stop criticizing them. The GOP gave them their word. Is not good enough for you? I know you're saying that as a joke, but there are people who unironically have that opinion. And of course, while the Republicans have openly said that they're just not doing the ACA subsidies at all by vote, which is the least surprising thing of all time, what's really interesting about this process also is the Republican line of attack against the Democrats. And once again, the Democrats have given the Republicans a gift-wrapped opportunity to say the truth. Here it is.
How are Republicans going to use leverage in their fight with Democrats when the Democrats are actually the ones with the upper hand in the eyes of voters?
Oh, I'm sure Democrats will be more than happy to open the government now. The election's over. I mean, part of the reason they shut it down was to get through tonight.
I mean, I
would suspect they'll be glad to open it up by the end of the week.
Adam Schiff, he was like, hold the line.
AOC, there's lots of rumors of people wanting to open it.
Look, I don't see what is the incentive for Democrats to back down when voters are basically saying Trump's not doing enough, it's the Republicans' fault, and then they...
Do you think Xi is aware of you? No, of course not. That's crazy.
They basically handed the keys in this past election to the Democrats. Where's the leverage?
Again, these are blue states electing Democrats, not a shock. Democrats clearly wanted this shutdown to get through Election Day. I do think they are facing pressure from their internal coalitions. The unions, the air traffic controllers, the government employee unions are desperate to get the government back open. They're feeling a little bit of internal heat. But again, the election's now over. I'm sure tomorrow morning phones will start ringing and it'll be open soon enough. This was a political shutdown, and that's what they did. And now
incredible.